Greetings! My name is William Morris. I am a patent attorney. I've been practicing over 15 years now, and what I want to talk about today is something that I think is pretty key to my practice, and I think in general, I think it's pretty key to the practice of law. And what I want to do then is talk about effective delegation and my thoughts on how to achieve it. And I have three sort of points that I'd like to make on delegation. Point number one on delegation is I think you should do it, or I feel I try and do it whenever possible, because there are not enough hours in the day for me to do all the things I could do. And so if I don't delegate, stuff doesn't really get done, and that's a problem. So, I mean, it's just a necessity. It's also, that goes double for there's not enough hours in the day for dealing with like invoice disputes where someone thinks that my billing rate is too high for something that was done that could theoretically have been delegated. So delegation, it's necessary. It reduces my misery dealing with invoicing disputes, and it can also really help in terms of client relations. I've had clients who have by name called out people who I delegate work to. They'll say, oh, this person, their communications, they're always timely, they're very professional, they interact very well. And they're not just saying, oh, I'm glad you're doing it because they have a lower billing rate or because they're not billable, but, effectively delegating to someone can really improve and drive client relations. So it changes something that would be misery in terms of fighting over invoice entries into a positive, which is a good client relations. So delegation, very key. Second point, you need to know when you can't delegate. And for me, this is a lot about knowing my work style. So I am someone, I don't know if I'd say I'm a perfectionist, but I'm not going to let something go out the door for one of my projects unless I'm very comfortable with it. And what that can mean in practice is if I've delegated something to someone who can't handle it, I just do it myself, because it's oftentimes much easier to redo something than it is to fix something that someone else has done. And, to some extent, there's always going to be, especially if you're like training someone new, right? There's always going to be some level of rework that happens. But I think recognizing, look, this is something that someone can do, this is something that someone cannot do, is critical to effective delegation, because all those benefits I mentioned about saving time, avoiding invoice fights, getting positive client relations, all those kind of flip on their head if you do it wrong. So I think the first point, delegation, is delegate whenever you can. Second point is recognize when you can't. And for me, again, that's very much about knowing my own work style and knowing what I'm comfortable letting it go out the door on one of my projects. The third point in delegation for me is do as much as I can to move things from the second category, things I can't delegate, into the first category of things that I can. And there are a few things that I've found that are really beneficial for being able to do this. One is just knowing the strengths, the abilities of my team. So knowing, okay, this is a person who can handle this kind of a thing. This person maybe can put together a draft application or a draft response, say to a missing parts notice, that I can then look over very easily. That's great. Knowing how that they can do that, whereas maybe they can't necessarily put together an office action response, right? So knowing what people can do, I think, is key. I also think it's key to build in support for people. So for example, having a library of template communications, saying, yes, here, when we have this kind of an issue, when we have this kind of a communication from the patent office, here's how we respond to that. Here is an example of that. Makes it a lot easier for someone to put something together to get it done. So I would say know what people can do and provide them as much support as possible so that they can do more, right? I think that's key. And then a third thing is make sure that when you are delegating, you provide them support at the time also. So for instance, not just saying, oh, we've got this whole library, knock it out. Sometimes you can do that, right? You might say mechanically, look, we have a notice of publication, right? Notice of publication. Here is the form letter that we send out for that. That's no problem. On the other hand, when you have like an office action, if you're going to delegate that out, you can't necessarily just say, oh, here's our office action template library, have at it. That may not be enough. And there are various things you can do with this. So you can put together templates. One thing that I've done in the past is I had a library of office action responses that I said, these are really great responses. This is something I can use as a model, and I would use it myself, right? So if I get a obviousness rejection and they, use a particular argument like design choice, I'd say, hey, I've dealt with design choice before. Here is a response that deals with design choice that I made. I was very proud of it. I can just reuse that. And I felt, that was very good. And so if I'm going to delegate a response out, I could say, hey, person I'm delegating this to, here's an example. This office action, they use design choice. Here is a response that I wrote that I think is good. Use design choice. Use this as a template for you putting something together, right? So you target that out. I've kind of moved away from that a little bit now. So what I do now is I put together this software that I call Arguminer. And what it is, it's very similar to that that sheet, right? That notebook that said, here's this. It was actually a Word document, not Notepad. But instead of saying, oh, here's a good thing, design choice, here's a good thing for that, what it does is it will look at rejections in an office action, and it will match those up to successful rejections that people have made in the past. And so what I'll do is I upload the office action, and it analyzes it. It looks through various parameters, and then I can go in and I can say, look, here are various responses that other people have filed, right? So I can change, if I want to say, okay, we want to look at like a 103, we've got 103s, here's a good example I can say of 103. So I hit apply selection when I've made my change. I can say I want the same examiner. I can use keywords if I want to look at a particular doctrine like design choice, and then I can view the results. And what I can do is I can quickly go through these responses that people have made, and I can see, okay, this one, okay, they got these 101s, all right, well, McRow, okay, that's good, I kind of like that. Here's some 103s, maybe I like it, maybe I don't. If I don't, no problem. You just go down the list, right? It's very similar to a search engine. And when I find stuff, I can get it and I can say, hey, here's what you can do. Here's what you can use this as a template. And it makes the delegation process a lot easier. Again, I've had associates, I've given this with like 101 rejections, and I've said, hey, here is a 101. Here's something, same examiner, similar arguments. Why don't you use this as a template? And I've seen that succeed, even with people who maybe don't have as much experience. And frankly, 101 is hard anyway. So even regardless of experience, I use the same thing myself. So if I can get a younger attorney to get the same as or similar results to what I would get, that's good delegation. And actually, this is very helpful for me in another way too. So one nice thing, right? I used to have to actually maintain this list. I'd keep it up. I'd say, okay, here's this, here's this. Using this software, it'll automatically do this. You can see I've got responses through. This first page one is like 2020. Obviously, if I want something later, they've got the ability to filter by date, so I can say whenever I'm looking for it in that. It's not just limited to me. So even if I've never seen something before and I don't have something in my examples, someone has seen it. It's almost certain that I'm not the first person to run into a particular issue, so I can find that. I can avoid reinventing the wheel, and it takes another item off my plate, which is nice, right? It's like I'm delegating my own job of maintaining that infrastructure out to the Arguminer software, which is really cool. So anyway, those are my 3 thoughts on effective delegation. Number 1, delegate everything you can. Number 2, recognize what you can't. And number 3, move everything you can from that latter category to the former category. So there you go, and I hope that works. And you know what? I actually do want to say one other thing about delegation. I want to show you. I want to show you something. This is the reason. This is my thing. So if you guys can't see this, I'm going to tell my editor to maybe we'll put a photo over top of it. But this is my little daughter. She's 1 year old. What you can see here, this is her. And this is me, and I'm giving her many kisses on the top of her head. That is what I call a non-delegable duty. And the more I can outsource, automate, and delegate out, the more time I have for that. And I will, I'll make it happen if I get to do a better job on her. So anyway, there you go. Those are my thoughts on delegation. Good luck, and I hope you have nothing but success in your patents as well as in your potentially even more important things like those non-delegable family members. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.